we're going to start off with our 3 C's, right? I'm going to have you clear the calculator on your own, right? Just exhale, take 3 breaths and exhale all the BS, right? Of the day, of the week, anything that's not outside of here. Phones on silence, right? Create the bunker is the second C. So let's get those phones turned off, upside down in a drawer. Send me a message in the event that there is an emergency and you're in the middle of a transaction that could fall apart in the next hour and a half. Right? Otherwise, no one's gonna die. And then the other one is, so we got create the bunker, clear the calculator, and cameras on. Megan is still connecting. Hey, Key. Hey, Liz. Woohoo! So I've got some announcements before we introduce Tim, and I am super duper excited about this. Let me pull up my sheet, friends, and I am so grateful. So check this out. And everyone start putting your clap button on if you can do that, or jazz hands or whatever. So right now we are how many days in, Juliet?
49.
49 days into the 90K. And here's how we calculate that. You should be earning $1,000 a day in 90 days, right? To get to the 90K. Well, guess what? Bree, Chad, Charles, Joanna, Casey, Kristen, RJ, and Steven are already over 90K. And you should only be at 49K. So they are crushing it, you guys. Hats off. Bree, Charles, Chad, Joanna, Casey, Kristen, RJ, and Steven. And then we've got people who are already over the 90K. Or I'm sorry, over the 49K. And that is Gina, Sue, Tammy, Liz, Megan, and Ryan. Way to go, you guys. And we've got 2 people that are right there. And that's Angela and Keith. And keep in mind, everyone, don't judge where you're at. There's a couple people that are running 2 businesses, right? Hats off to you. And we're going to, like Alex is one. He's running 2 businesses. So we were just chatting offline about getting him some leverage, right? Getting him a Juliet and Ella. So, you know, that he can take some things off his plate. So those are a couple of announcements. We are going to do our icebreaker. So Sue, I see your beautiful smile here. Oh, the top 2. So here's one more announcement. So in the group summary of action items, which you should still be checking off to make sure you're getting all the things done, Sue and Gina, man, are leading the pack and getting their shiitake done and checking it off. I know other people are doing things, but you got to check it off. So I know, right? If I think I'm leaving people behind, I'm going to call you, all right, to make sure that everything is going okay. So, all right. And then we've got our icebreaker. So Sue, unmute. I'm going to read 3 things about Sue today. And you guys are going to put in the chat number 1, 2, or 3, the one you think is a lie. So say hi to everybody, Sue.
Hi, everybody. And by the way, Monica, yesterday, Indianapolis was in the middle of the solar eclipse.
I know.
It was so awesome. Amazing.
One of my dear friends is in Greenfield, Indiana, and she sent me a picture of the neighborhood. She goes, it actually got cold.
Yeah, we did. And I was on my lake, and their wind had been, you know, not a heavy wind, but, you know, a breeze, and there were little ripples in the water, and everything stopped. Yep. Birds stopped, everything stopped. And we would see the winds shift as the totality got closer and closer. So it was coming from the north, then it came from the west, then it came from the south. It was just weird.
What a cool experience. I bet it was eerie. Yeah, that's how Ruby explained it as well. Yeah, so good, so good. All right, 2 truths and a lie about Sue. Sue was a top producer at Tucker. She showed horses and equestrian classes when she was 5 years old, starting when she was 5, and she loves to play golf. Which one is the lie about Sue? Look at that sweet smile and face of hers. Number one, she's a top producer at Tucker. Number two, she sewed horses in equestrian classes since she was 5 years old. And number three, she loves to play golf. Let's see those numbers in the chat. Tim, you got to play too. You got to play, Tim. Look at that beautiful face. Is she a horse person? Is she a top producer? We are seeing that now it looks like there's a couple number twos, mostly number threes. So they don't think you love to play golf. Which one's the lie, Sue?
Well, I'm a good producer, but I'm not the top producer. And I love to play golf. And when I was early learning to play golf, I had 3 pros that approached me about going pro, but I had 4 little kids and one was a baby, so that was not going to happen. But yeah, I love golf and I love to show horses.
Yeah,
Sandbagger.
so good, so good. So Tim, we do that once a week so the group can get to know each other, and it is really, really fun. And dang it, I should have prepared Tim to do that. Dang it. Could you come up with 2 truths and a lie, Tim? Like off the cuff and not let us figure out? Oh, you got on mute, buddy.
Yes, I'm sure I could. And of course, I got Sue totally wrong, but everybody else was just as wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
Sue's she's almost like semi-pro golfer, you know, with that status, and almost everybody said she doesn't like to play golf. Which, gosh, how wrong is that? So I was wrong. But
right?
Well,
I was like showing horses at 5 years
real-
old. That's kind of young. So I kind of guessed that.
Unfortunately, real estate gets in the way, and I relocated back to Indy, which is my home, 13 and a half years ago, and I don't have as many people to play golf with here. The people that I would play golf with are also realtors, so you know how that goes. Well, I got to go to a house or whatever. So I only play about 4 or 5 times a year now, and it's always in a scramble, but I love it when I get to play. And I'd love to play more. So if you all want to come up here and play golf with me, I'd love it.
I've taken lessons. It's just not pretty.
That's okay. That's okay. You know, we all have to start somewhere.
Yep, we do. So Tim, do you think you can come up with 2 truths and a lie about yourself real quick?
I'm sure I could. Let's see here. Okay. Okay, 3 things here. One is in high school, I played competitive chess, and I took 2nd place in a open tournament.
Ooh.
1.
Okay.
Number 2, I'll go with Sue's. I love to play golf.
Okay.
And number 3, as a high schooler, I was an All-American basketball player.
All right. So we got number 1. Let me go through here. Is competitive chess, took 2nd place in a tournament. Number 2, loves golf, or basketball. What'd you say? Basketball what?
I was an All-American high school basketballer.
Okay. All right. We're getting a lot of 2s and 3s here. And number 1. What's the lie, Tim?
The lie is the high school basketball.
Sue got it. Sue got it.
Yeah.
So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Tim. And I'm just so excited. We've been talking about real estate reviews. Not a whole bunch. This is the introductory week, right? Some of you, like Bree, is already using Focus First. And Tim, Tim is the owner and creator of Focus First. Can you give me the backfill story?
I will. You know, matter of fact, I got a little presentation. Maybe it's a good time just to go into that. And
Let's
I can
just
talk
jump
about
right in then.
how
Let's roll
everything
with
happened, basically. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can go ahead.
And Tim, do you prefer questions to be saved to the end? Or do you want
No,
people to raise
absolutely
their
not.
hands?
I'm like this is like a really small group here, basically, very informal.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and just ask questions as you guys want. Just feel free to interrupt me, and let's
Perfect.
talk about this. Now, this presentation I have is called Trend Bender, and you'll see why it's called that in a second, basically. This is who I am. My name is Tim DeLeon. I'm a realtor at the group here in Fort Collins, Colorado. Now, I actually have a degree in electrical engineering. I'm a graduate of Colorado State University here in Fort Collins. And when I first tell people I have a degree in electrical engineering, people are like, well, what's the guy with a degree in electrical engineering doing selling real estate? Well, it didn't actually start off that way. Initially, I was a pretty good student at CSU. At the time I graduated, HP was a really top company. I don't know, does people hear about HP anymore?
Not
Maybe
as
not.
often, right?
That's right. They're not quite. They kind of lost some of their luster. But when I graduated from CSU, HP was local here in Fort Collins. They pretty much got to handpick people out of the CSU area that they wanted. So when they gave me an offer, how could I say no? So I went to go work with HP. Had a lot of fun at Hewlett Packard. Traveled all over the world. I've been to 5 different continents in the world. I reported primarily into Palo Alto. There was a time where I reported into Brüggen, Germany. So I traveled out there like about 6 times a year, spending 2 weeks out of the year there. So just had a lot of fun there. And so that was kind of how I started. But then eventually, my wife was kind of a stay-at-home mom. She went to go work, and she ended up working at the real estate company at the group. So she kept calling me up and telling me, you need to get out of the cubicles. Because at HP, we had everybody, it was supposed to be a very informal environment. So everybody worked in cubicles. So she'd call me up and say, you need to get out of the cubicles and come with me and sell real estate. Now, kind of at first I was like, oh, why would I want to do that? You know, I'm doing a pretty good job here. I'm traveling all over the world, having lots of fun. We had 2 boys. And at that time, they were kind of just getting out of, like, didn't need Joanne help that much. And they were kind of moving off into their own little kind of interest. And Joanne just felt like we were kind of going in 2 different directions. So she said, you need to leave HP and come with me and sell real estate. So finally, I decided to do that. Now, it took me a while to kind of warm up to that idea, but I left HP to come and sell real estate. So that's kind of what happened there. Now, what happened when I left HP? Well, now, by the way, this is an appreciation graph. At Focus First, we do these appreciation graphs for 325 metropolitan areas, and this is the most accurate appreciation, okay? And this is appreciation graph for Greeley, Colorado, but what happened when I left HP to come and sell real estate? Well, guess what happened? The market took a huge drop. Oh my God, that was crazy. Okay, I left HP right around 2000, 2001 timeframe. I had a couple of years, you can see down here, and all of a sudden the market took a drop. And that was a huge, huge problem. People who basically could sell real estate, all of a sudden they couldn't get their listing sold. And so my first thought was, oh my gosh, I left HP at the wrong time, right? Just as the market took a drop. But after I thought about it, I go, no, you know what? This is like one of the old, I have this little coin I have with me, which is really a great little coin. It has to do with the Stoics, and it says, the obstacle is the way, you know, which is a kind of a Marcus Aurelius quote. And what I've realized is, okay, the same things that made me successful at HP, I need to now apply in real estate. And that was that HP were caught, get the data, okay? Get the data, look at the data, what's the data telling you? And so I started doing that. I started getting the data, and what I started doing is taking the data. At first, I just throw it into little spreadsheets and analyze the information that was there. Eventually, we started figuring some things out, and you're going to see some of those things we figured out. And I hooked up with Larry Kendall. I don't know if you guys have heard about Larry Kendall or not. He's like the ninja selling guru, basically. And he took a look at what I was doing and said, man, we need to get this out to the world, okay? And so what happened in the bad time in real estate, really, I think when you look at some of these bad times in real estate, they really bring out the best of the best. And I think that's what happened here, basically. So I ended up coming up with the Focus First pricing system, which basically now is used by major corporations all over the US. We have customers over 500 MLS areas throughout the US and Canada, basically. And I have personally, I get on the phone with people and I will do a market analysis with them right there on the spot, okay? Using the Focus First pricing system, because it really is basically based on getting the data, looking at the information, data that's customized and specific to the customer profile. Now, um, when I say I've actually personally done CMAs on in over 500 MLS areas throughout the U.S. and Canada, I can honestly say I don't know anybody else that's done that. Okay, um, and sometimes people will say, "Well, do you consider yourself a pricing expert?" And I have to admit, I don't really consider myself a pricing expert. So I don't know. I'm not totally sure what a pricing expert is. Maybe it's somebody who walks into a house and kind of licks their finger and looks, kind of gets the feel of the air moving in the room and says, "Here's what the price is." I'm not that person. For me, I like to consider myself a pricing master. And what's the difference? The difference is a pricing master has a process that they follow, a process that works. And so for me, using that process and with another expert realtor on the other phone, we can actually do a market analysis all over the US and Canada. And so that's the process we're going to talk a little bit about today. Right? Now, Focus First is all about real estate. It's all about real estate and it's all about realtors. Now, when we talk about Focus First, we really have two different things we like to focus on. One is getting the business, and then the second part is doing the business. When we talk about getting the business, that's where we talk about real estate reviews. When we talk about doing the business, that's when we talk about market analysis. Now, this presentation is really focused on real estate reviews, okay? And we're gonna talk about that. Now, I wanna show you this little chart here. This is a trend bender chart. This was based on a study that Larry Kendall did. In 2018, Larry's really, I'm a huge fan of Larry Kendall. He's authentic, he's genuine, he really is, he's a realtor himself, of course, but he really tracks the real estate really effectively. And so in 2018, he had been studying the productivity of several realtors across the US and that were part of the Ninja Training Organization. And so I don't know if you guys know Larry Kendall or not. He's the person that started Ninja Selling. He's also a renowned real estate professional in the real estate industry. He's been honored by a number of NAR, CAR, and received awards from all over NAR and CAR. And so he's well known in the industry. He's been in the real estate industry almost 40 or 50 years. Okay, so he was tracking the productivity of several real estate professionals. And what he saw was that these people would kind of go along, go back here. They would kind of go along the path here. They were making progress. They were increasing, growing their business. But then all of a sudden, he saw that there were a handful of them that just took all of a sudden a huge jump. They were like growing their business, and all of a sudden, boom, took a huge jump. Now he called that the trend bender. Okay, and so Larry went to talk to those folks to find out what exactly were they doing. What did they do to kind of create that huge jump in their business? Okay, and I'm about to tell you what that was. But before I do, let me tell you a story. Earlier this year, I got a phone call from my insurance agent, who basically we do our insurance with. And he called us up and he said, "You know what? I want to talk to you and kind of review your insurance." Okay, now that was interesting to us. It turns out we have a second home up in Estes Park. And of course, there's always fires up in the mountains and things like that. So we wanted to make sure we were insured properly with our insurance. So that was important to us. Okay. Of course, at the beginning of the year, I usually get a call from my primary care physician letting me know it's time for my annual checkup. And of course, I see my dentist 3 times a year for my teeth cleaning, and they do my annual x-rays to check out my gum health. And at the end of the year, my accountant calls me to do some of the end of year tax planning. So all of these advisors are calling me periodically to do their annual reviews. Well, let me ask you, what about real estate? What are we doing? Are we positioning ourselves as a trusted advisor to our clients as these other professionals are? Okay, so that's the whole concept about real estate reviews. When you do this, you want to position yourself as their trusted advisor, as adding value. You don't want to come across as salesy. Okay, so not as a salesperson. You really want to position yourself as a trusted advisor, just like their accountant, just like their doctor, like the other professionals in their life. That's what real estate reviews are all about. is making that connection, presenting yourself as a professional. So what exactly is a real estate review? Let me just kind of walk through this real quick so you can make sure you understand what our vision of a real estate review really is. It's not meant to be a complete market analysis. It's meant to be a short summary of the real estate market as it applies to that specific customer. Okay. So it's customized and specific. It should be short and sweet. So, 4 or 5 pages, something that you put together very quickly, 5 or 10 minutes. It's not a complete market analysis. It's meant just to give them a quick view. And I'll give you an example shortly of what a real estate review actually looks like. So you got to get a feel for that. Okay. And here's the key thing about this. It's something that should take you 5 to 10 minutes to put together. It shouldn't be an hour's worth of work for you to put together. It's not a complete CMA. You're not really giving them what their house will sell for necessarily, just kind of give them a rough idea of what the real estate looks like. So that's the key thing about this, something that you could put together very quickly. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what a real estate review might look like. Okay, now this is what we call, like you can see, this is this is actually a real estate review put together by my wife, Joanne, who actually sells real estate at the group full-time. While I do have a real estate license, I'm primarily working with Focus First. Okay, so you can see there's just a header page. Then we have a detailed MLS sheet of the property, the subject property that we're looking at. And this is just an MLS sheet, so nothing unique is different about that. And then we have what we call the real estate review report. And we'll go to a little bit detail when we actually generate the report so you can see what this looks like on this data and information. And kind of a couple graphs. And that is it. Okay. So really the whole thing I want you to see here is it's meant to be short and sweet. Okay. Now, one of the things we like to do is we like to include the detailed MLS sheet because we want them to see what they paid for the property. So when they look at it, kind of get a rough idea of what their house might sell for, they're looking to see how much equity they have in their house. And that's, in some cases, that's money that they can spend. Okay. So they need to be aware of that. So this is a quick summary of real estate review report. So let's kind of walk through how that was put together.
Tim,
so
I have a quick question on
yes.
With regards to that. So if you got a property that is not in the MLS, because like in Portland, I'm in Portland, Oregon, and in our MLS system, it's like if their house hasn't been on the market in 20 years, it's not on there. So if they've been in there, what do you do? Because I usually, when I pull the reports, I put in like tax records because there's no other reports in the system.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. The only thing I want to show them right here, I just did the previous MLS sheet, but I really what I want to show them is the size of their property and what they previously sold for. So you're right. If their property is not in MLS, you just go into public records or your tax records, and you can do a one-page printout of what that looks like, so they can get an idea of what they last purchased their house for. And that's really the key thing is how much equity are you going to show them? Give them a rough idea of how much equity they have in their house. Okay, so great question. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at how this real estate review was put together. Basically, the way it works is you go into your MLS, you do a search based on the property. In most cases, you just look at all the activity in the subject property's area or neighborhood. Okay, you go into your MLS, do a search on all that, base it on location. You export those results, and then you read it into the Focus First pricing system, and all these charts are made directly for you automatically. Now, we're going to give you an example. We're going to show you what we actually did, but let me tell you a little bit about the search that we did. So when we did this search, this is where the subject property was right there. Now, a lot of times if they're in a well-defined subdivision and you can do your search and in your MLS do a search and then say, give me all the status activity over the last 2 years in a well-defined subdivision. If you can identify that, that's easy to do. But in this case, there wasn't a well-defined subdivision, so we couldn't actually do that. So we had to do a map search, which we recommend doing map searches. Now, when we do a map search, we don't really like the radius search, okay? Because when you do the radius search, you can go over all kinds of different subdivisions that don't quite match up. What we like to do is we like to look for what we call natural boundaries. So there's a subject property right there in the middle there. And so when we do a well-defined boundaries, we look for major streets and kind of like open spaces. So this is kind of the map that we would do for this subject property. So we said, let's look at this. This is a major kind of street there, major street there. And then right along there is a path. So generally what we're doing is when we do our search, we look for somewhere between 50 to 100 data points. And again, that's looking for all status activity over the last 2 years.
Tim, Bree is
Yes.
asking why a 2-year period?
Well, here's the thing about this. Now, one of the things you're going to find is, so first of all, when we tell people this on the phone, it's not unusual for someone to say, 2 years of data, oh my God, we're not going to price property on 2-year-old data, are we? And of course, the answer is no, we're not. Okay, when we actually go to price a property, we're going to look at the most recent data. But we're looking for the last 2 years because we want to see if this specific area, if the real estate market in that location, if it's increasing or declining. And so we can get a pretty good idea if it's increasing or declining if we look at just the last 2 years. So that's one of the things about this that we're doing, okay? And so we just did a search of all the activity in that area, and that's pretty much all we did. So let's show you what that actually looks like. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually bring up the Focus First pricing system, and this is what it looks like right here. It's a pretty sophisticated application. It's embedded in Microsoft Excel as a macro, so you do need to have Microsoft Excel. And you can see right here, there's a ribbon control. Hopefully it's not too small for you guys.
Can I say something real quick, Tim?
Yes.
So the point that I really want you guys to get is that without doing something like this on an annual basis, no matter whether you use Focus First or some other method, do it your own, is you're positioning yourself as the expert. And you've heard me say that before. Do dentists do it? Do doctors want to hear your numbers, see your numbers, right? Do dentists want to see you every year? Does your CPA want to see you and see your numbers every year? That's what legal professionals, financial, but they all want to see you every year and review what's going on. So why would we not do that? And then the other day in the class that we held, if you came to navigating the NAR settlement like a rockstar real estate agent, we said, talk about the complexity, but deliver the simplicity. So I know some heads are spinning going, oh, I got to pull this and I got to do this. Okay, wait, because Tim's about to make it super duper easy for you. And Bree has a Focus First account. And the reason I say that is the very first thing she goes, Monica, if I would have realized how easy it was, I would have done it right away. All right. So go ahead, Tim. I just want to drive that home for him.
Thank you for jumping in. I appreciate that. So all we did is we went into the MLS and we did a map search on that location. We searched for all status activity over the last 2 years. We exported that data, and now we open up Focus First and we're going to read in that data. So I'm just going to click on Start here, and I'm going to find the data, and it's basically a text file for this location. In some MLS, it's a CSV. And then I'm just going to click on Open. It prompts me with a little dialog box. I'll just hit Done. And then basically my real estate review is done, and I'm done. It's over.
Wait,
Okay.
what? I blinked for a second.
Yes. So your real estate review is done. You can print this out, and then you can basically show this to your customer. But let's take a little more time to walk through what exactly the data is so you can see this. Okay. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Okay. It's basically a 2-page report. And let's talk a little bit about what you see. Let's start with this graph that's right in the middle. And this is what was referred to as the odds of selling. Now, for those of you that are familiar with Ninja, Ninja is all about asking the question and then showing the data and then letting the customer basically state what he sees, basically. So this first graph right here is called the odds of selling. And what this is a summary of all the real estate activity over the last 12 months. In blue, we show all the properties that sold. In red, we show all the properties that did not sell. And for the most part, those are withdrawn and expireds, okay? And very simply, we like to say those are properties that did not sell for the value they had and where they were priced at. Okay, very simply. And then we also show properties that are under contract and properties that are currently for sale. Now, there's not currently any properties for sale. And then we look at all the real estate activity in that location. What percent of those homes actually sold? And we call that the odds of selling. So you can see for this period of time, for the last 12 months, the odds of selling were like about 80%, which, by the way, that is really, this is a hot market. Generally, if the odds of selling are like 30% or lower, it's going to be a tough sell. I mean, 30%, that's like if you drove through your neighborhood and you saw 10 homes, only 3 of those would result in the sale. So that's for the whole year. Okay, so that's a tough market. Once you get to be about 60%, that's a solid market. 70 or 80%, basically things are starting to sell like hotcakes. So this is a hot market. Now, I'm saying this is a hot market, which is true, but look at this. We still have 18 properties that did not sell. So even in a hot market, you can still have homes that are overpriced for the value they have, okay? Now, this top graph right here is called time to sell graph. And what this right here is, this is a picture of all the property that sold in that location, okay? So when you're doing your research, generally it's based on location, and you're saying in your neck of the woods, here's the actual experience that people have. Now, we have a little red line there, that's the average. And generally what we find is 60 to 70% of the data points are on or before that average. You can see that average is 41 days, which says probably 60% of the homes in that area are closing in 41 days. So for this specific location, for this market, this is a hot market we just said, and you can see that's reinforced by the days on the market because that's the list date minus the close date, 41 days. But we also do the average sale price. So this right here is really a great picture. Matter of fact, sometimes we like to call this the red zone. I don't know if you guys are fans of football or not. We like to use a football vernacular, which is scoring in the red zone. When you're playing in football, if you're inside the 20-yard line, if you don't score, you're possibly going to lose the game. And that's the way it is with real estate. This is the red zone over here. And if you're in the red zone, that's where you get most of your real estate activity. That's when you get your best offers. If you don't get your house under contract in that red zone, you are probably going to lose the game of real estate. Okay. Now, once you get past here, there's still some people that sold way out here. You can see that person was out at 152 days. So you can still get it done, but your odds of selling are going to start going down dramatically once you pass that red line. So we call this the time to sell graph. And the last graph we have down below here basically is called the buying pattern. And what this is right here is, this is a graph to show if there's any correlation between the time of the year and when homes actually sell, okay? And you can see for the most part, for this location, there is. While homes do sell throughout the year, it looks primarily through January through December. It's when the second half of the year, or July, I'm sorry, that's June, July. So kind of the second part of the year is when most of the homes close in this area. So this gives you an idea of when the best time to get your house on the market might look like. So all of these are neighborhood patterns. The last graph we like to show is called a scattergram. And this graph just shows any correlation between the size and what the price the homes sell at. And there almost always is. I do this graphs all over the US and Canada, and we can always see graphs. Now, sometimes they look a little bit more spotted if basically some of the dots might be a little bit higher, or a little bit lower than a trend line. But when we price properties, we love scattergrams. Because when we price properties, we like to look at 5 factors. The most important factor is location. And of course, you saw that little map that we did. So they're all pretty much comparable location. There might be some nuances. Somebody might back to a busy street, or somebody might back to a green belt. For the most part, they're in the same location. The next thing we like to look at is price and size. And on the scattergram, you can see price and size on here very easy. The last thing we like to look at is special features and condition. And special features and condition, which moves some of these dots above the line and some of these dots below the line. So a scattergram is a great pricing tool. But for a real estate review, we're not going to spend a lot of time looking at other properties. We're just going to be done with this. We're going to say, basically, here's our graph. Here's all the properties that sold in your neck of the woods. Now, if you remember on these people, let's see if I can bring them back up so you can see what they look like. You can see their size is about 1,800 square feet, and they sold for 350. So if you bring it back over here and look at this graph, 1,800 square feet, 350, you're looking at 1,800 square feet. They bought at 350. It's probably right around, depending if they're above the line or below the line, probably right around 450. But again, we're not pricing their property yet. We're just giving them a rough idea because this is a real estate review. Now, if they look at this and they say, you know what, that's pretty interesting, 450. I'd like to get a better idea of what my house actually would sell for. Then that's perfect, because then you say, great, would you like me to do a complete market analysis for you? And that's exactly what you'd like to do. And then of course you'd like to look at their house and all that. At this point, you haven't looked at their house. Okay, so let me just stop here, pause for a second, and see if you guys have any questions about any of this information that we're showing here, what it means and how to present it. Any questions about this at all?
Bree.
Yeah, do you ever put like a one pager with like the front, maybe it's the like a front cover of maybe their house, and then a one pager explaining what a real estate review actually is so they understand?
Well, here's the thing we do. We do put a, as you saw in the previous thing, we do put a, let's see here. Okay, so what we do, this is kind of like the real estate review right here itself. One is we have like a little cover page, kind of a marketing about who you are and kind of your contact information basically. And then we do put a one page of their information right here, of their property, so they understand what their property is. Okay.
Right, but do you ever like, so the question I get when I ask people like, I want to, pop by with a real estate review, or I drop it by and they're not home or something on their 1 year, they don't really understand what it is. So what I was trying to do is put maybe like a one pager together, just kind of a brief explanation of what an actual real estate review is.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you guys have any samples? I think we may have a sample, Bree, that I've had a client do before. Has Focus First come up with any samples?
Yeah, we do. As a matter of fact, one of the things we'll do at the end of the session is we'll give you a link to some additional information kind of to help you know a little bit more about real estate reviews. So we'll do that at the end, basically, where you can look at some additional resources.
Yeah.
For not just about how to present real estate reviews, but also how to get people excited about real estate reviews. Like in some cases, it's not uncommon for us to get calls for someone to say, hey, can I get an updated review? Because I'm thinking about doing something. So that's kind of what's really is powerful as well.
How do you typically recommend that it is it delivered to everybody in their top 150 to 200 once a year?
Yes, absolutely. Let's kind of walk through, tell you what, I got a couple more slides I want to walk through, which really discuss that. Let's see here. So, okay, so here's kind of the real estate review process. First of all, what we like to say is you create the review first, okay? And then now this is the actual script we recommend you use. And of course, you want to personalize it eventually, but to start off with, just use the script as is. Basically, pick up the phone, call your customer and say, as part of my service to you, I'd like to sit down with you and provide you an update on your real estate. I've prepared a packet for you. It'll take about 10 minutes for me to review that with you. When would be a good time for us to meet so I can review that packet with you? Okay, so this kind of helps the preface. Okay, number one, let's talk a little bit about this process and why now this is just the start of it basically, is why we like this process so much. Okay, again, first of all, we really recommend that you focus on face-to-face interaction. We find that people that have face-to-face interaction really get the best results from these real estate reviews. Okay, you can email it as kind of a last resort, but we find that when people email it, they generally just basically don't even look it over. Okay, so a couple things about this. One is, what we like to say is, we don't like to tell people, oh, I'm going to prepare a packet for you. I'm going to do it, because somebody will say, well, don't worry about it. I'm not thinking about selling my house. Rather, they'll think you're coming across that you're going to try to sell them right away. So they'll say, no, don't spend time doing that. So what we like to say is, we've done that already. Okay. So that's already taken care of for you. So to some extent, they almost feel there's a little bit of a feeling of obligation to basically take advantage of some work that you've already done for them. Okay. The other thing we really like is this concept of, as part of my service to you, like you're providing a service. You're a professional. You're providing a service to them. And so that's getting in the back of their mind that you're providing the service to them. So that's really a powerful part of the statement as well. And so then we like to say, of course, it's only going to take 10 minutes for us to review your real estate, so you can get a chance to see what real estate looks like. So that's you kind of described a little bit about what a real estate review is all about to them, basically. But really, we like this script. We love this script, and we think people that do this get results. Now, what we're finding that people that do face-to-face interaction, if they do 10 real estate reviews, they'll end up with 3 transactions out of the 10. Now, sometimes what will happen is one person will do multiple transactions. Okay. Matter of fact, we had one case where we did a real estate review with someone, and they had it sitting on their coffee table. And their neighbor came over and they saw it because it's very visual. It's very cool. And they looked it over, and it's a really quick picture. And they go, oh, this is really cool. Gosh, I wonder if I can get this done for me. And of course, our contact information is right there. So they said, sure, you can take that if you want, and you can give them a call. And so they did, and we did the real estate review for them, and they ended up in the resulting sales. So these are very effective. The other thing about it is focus on the face-to-face interaction. One of the things we found along with the trend bender study is one of the key things is being in the flow. Okay. I think you guys have probably all seen all the real estate NAR stats about NAR. Basically, they'll do a survey and they'll say, do you remember your last purchase or sale of your property? And of course, people say, sure, yeah, I can. Do you remember who your realtor was? In many cases, most people will remember who their realtor was. In some cases, they don't. But then they say, great, do you think they did a good job? And people say yes. But when they go back and say, for people who bought or sold a house recently, they'll say, did you use your previous realtor? Like only 10% of the people did, because guess what? You're not in the flow with them. They're in the flow with somebody else. And so one of the things about these real estate reviews and providing the professional services, you stay in the flow. So that's why the focus face-to-face interaction is so important. Now,
Tim,
yes,
real quick. I like what you said about being on the coffee table. I've got clients that will use thermal book things and make them look like really super nice. And so they're filing them on the shelf, right? Every year after year, right? And then guess what they are going to call, right?
Yep.
And the other thing that you said I love about the first option, and I always tell people, right? I've done it. Just like you said, I've already prepared it, because otherwise we know they say, oh no, don't bother. No,
Yeah,
it's done. It's done. And another reason I talk about it's touching. So if you call them, that's one touch, and you say, I've done this, right?
yes.
And even if they say, I can't meet with you, right? And you say, okay, well, I'm going to mail it, right? I'll give you a call in a couple of weeks to go over it. When they
Perfect.
receive it, that's another touch. They probably, if they're like me, they know what it is. They're not going to open it like that right away. They're going to move it 3 or 4 times, and then they're going to open it. So that's touch, touch, touch. Every time they move that dang envelope that's got your name on the outside of it. Then when you call, that's another touch, right? So it's really just touching them, which is huge.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you real quick, we've got some newer agents in here. And I know, because I know inside their heads, they're going, well, I don't have anyone to send this to. If they've got 500 people in their phone, and they can get addresses, would they have 500 people they could send these to?
Absolutely. And again, like you said, focus on the interactions, focus on making those touches, because that's really the game changer. I mean, if you just, like you said, if you just send the data via mail or email, they're going to be like you. They're probably not going to open it. They're probably not going to look at it.
Yeah.
but it's really the touches that reinforce that. And those touches are what places you in that trusted advisor position.
Yeah.
So that's the
So if
real game
anyone's
changer.
got a drunk monkey, let's hear what the gremlin, right? This little guy, I call it Tim. I call this guy the itty bitty shitty committee. He sits there all cute and fuzzy, and he's got limiting beliefs going, until they rear their ugly head, and he's like, I can't do that because people are going to judge me, right? I can't do that because they're going to find out that I don't know as much, or whatever it is, whatever the drunk monkey or the gremlin says. Can you guys share with me? Does anyone have anything that's going in the back of their head about your ability to do this and to reach out to people if you don't have a database, whether it's reaching out to people in your database or if you think you don't have one, reaching out and saying, I've done this? What are the objections, Sue?
Okay, I've done this with my clients, not this particular program, but I've
Okay.
done the reviews. But I have this one client of mine, and she sends me referrals, and every year I ask her, and she's made some updates to her house since I sold it to her. Plus, it has appreciated. And I have asked her, I said, would you like me, and maybe it's the way I'm phrasing it, would you like a market review? And I said, I know you're not interested in selling, but just so you know what your houses work. And this year I posted, you want to be sure that you have it insured properly so that in case anything would happen, you're gonna, your house is totally covered. And she said, no, thank you. I think we're okay.
So it goes back again, in my mind, I've done this, right? I've already done it. And then you see if you can meet them for coffee. And if they can't do it, no, I'm too busy. All right, I'll mail it to you. I'll call you in a couple of weeks. That's the big thing. I've prepared. It's done. So
Yeah.
we don't give anyone an option to say, no, you don't have to do that, because they don't want you to go to extra trouble.
Right.
Do you have any issues with saying I've prepared it?
No.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, Sue. Any other, Megan, how do you feel about it? She's like, dang it.
I feel like it's a good idea for me to get in contact with like people that I meet at my open houses and things. But
What about your contacts in your phone that you know are homeowners?
yeah, I don't really have too many, but I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Is there any drunk monkey surrounding it? Saying, I'd have to get their address, and I don't know if I could do that without feeling salesy.
No, not really. I mean, I guess a little bit, but yeah.
So Tim, for anyone who does have that issue and they're like, I don't have their address yet, I need to get it, how could we change the script? Because we want them to say I prepared it.
Well, here's the thing. Here's what I like about this script. I mean, we think the biggest challenge we find, like for example, Sue, you've overcome the biggest challenge because you picked up the phone and called people. The biggest challenge we find is people picking up the phone and calling your friends or your family or whoever it is. And that's why this script is so valuable, because guess what? You don't have to think about how to say it. You just say it just like this. When you first got into real estate, I don't know how you did it, but maybe what we recommend you first do is you send a message out saying, hey, guess what? I'm in real estate. I mean, because you got to tell people you're in real estate, right? And so this type of thing, once you've told them you're in real estate, then you can say, great, hey, I've got a great service. I'd like you to be, you'd like to, now if you're new to real estate, you can say, you know what? As you know, I'm in real estate. We're doing these real estate reviews. I'd love to walk over a real estate review with you and give you and ask you for your feedback on what you think about my presentation. So so it comes across as you're helping them, they're helping you start real estate. So if you're a newbie, that's kind of a way to phrase it as, you know what, we're doing these real estate reviews and I'd love to kind of get your feedback on how this comes across,
Yeah.
And that's
I love
a
that.
valuable way. But
and then what about for like Stefan? Can you unmute for a second? He's a busy man, right? A lot of moving parts in his business. And does it have to be the licensed professional, or could it be an assistant that runs these and prints them?
Oh, absolutely. Assistant. Matter of fact, we have a little video of an assistant that does these for Joanne. So the actual presentation, picking up the phone and calling people, Joanne does that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the creation of, I mean, again, it takes 5 or 10 minutes, but her assistant does all that for her.
Okay. And if like, so Casey and Megan, they work together. You can see them, they're together in the screen. Right. So Megan's brand new and she is in Casey's downline. Can they share an account or they have to have two separate accounts?
We're very generous for teams. So if you guys are viewed as a combo team, then yes, you can share an account.
Very cool. Okay. All right.
Okay. Now
I have
there's
a
a couple
question.
other scripts.
Oh,
Go ahead. I'm
Liz got
sorry.
a question.
Just a quick question. How do you combat people who say, oh, thank you so much. That's awesome. Just send it in the mail to me or email it to me. How do you know, because it is very self-explanatory.
Here's the thing about it. If people, you know, and not as a negative, kind of like Sue said, she has a customer who gives her deals all the time. If people are so busy, they just don't want to have spend the time doing it. Fine, you know. You don't want to, you don't want to get too pushy, you know. So yeah, in that case, I'd be okay, great, awesome, cool. But here's the thing about it: you made the connection. You presented yourself as a professional. You presented yourself as providing great service to your customer. They're not just going to hear from you like never in most cases. Okay, they're gonna know that you're in business. You're working up. So my attitude is, yep, just drop it in the mail and send it to them. If that's all it is, it
So
is what it is.
when you put them in the mail, do you use like a presentation folder or how do you present that so it's not just a bunch of paper stapled together? I mean, when I do my buyer packets and seller packets, I have like it's a clear cover with a pocket folder thing in the back of it, and I put a bunch of stuff in there. I mean, is something like that, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes it look more professional. And that's what you want to do. You want to come across as you're the professional. So the more you can do to reinforce that, the better it is. But
Yeah, I would put the best picture of their house on the front of it. And there's thermal, and I don't know where they get them at. I tried to look for one once and I tried to ask a guy where he got his, but there's thermal bookmakers and he was making like light hardback. And they were beautiful.
Those are
Yeah.
expensive though, to do the hardback books. If you're doing a bunch of them to send out, if you're mailing, say 50 of those books, that's a
Yeah,
lot.
I don't
Well,
know. Yeah,
I'm not going to recommend that you do anything expensive, but I think
Yeah.
there's different ways. And I don't think he was spending a lot. There are definitely expensive ways, but there's less expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but at
I
minimum-
would go with the less expensive option because unless if the face-to-face is where we're finding you get the best results. If you're just emailing things out, then minimize your cost because we're not seeing a lot of results with emailing or mailing things out as much.
Well,
As
they get lost in the
face-to-face.
abyss, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
no, they'll see it once and they'll never see it again with the email. So never, ever, 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 never send it in the email. But if they
Right.
can't meet, send it in the mail, follow up. Bree said that she bought a binding machine on Amazon. How much was that, Bree? Did we lose Bree? We may have lost her. Sorry. And Angela had a great point. Angela said that she sends them out every year. And I think she says a month before, she tells them in the beginning, you're going to get this from me. So she sets
Perfect.
the expectation. And then a month before she says, next month is when, you'll be getting this from me. And then she calls and said, I've done it. Right. So there's no option for them to say, please don't do that. And the only reason they say, please don't do that is they don't want to take from you. They don't want to take your time. They know you're busy. Not that they don't want to be a receiver.
Well, and I think too, in one of our meetings, we were talking about the personal touches versus, just being more personal and things getting lost in email with all the AI stuff that's going on now. People are getting inundated with emails and digital tech, and people are kind of reverting back to that old school.
Yes.
I want mailers and they're opening up the mail. So if you can't meet them in person, it's, in my opinion, it's better because I'm one of those. I just start going and deleting a bunch of emails because
Yeah.
I've got thousands of them in my box. So I can't get to them all.
Oh, absolutely. And Minta said the binding machines are about $30 on Amazon, right? And there's Bree's. How much did you pay for yours, Bree? Your binding machine. You're muted.
I'd have to look back on Amazon.
Yeah. 30, 40 bucks, right? And even the clear ones with maybe a gold thing on it. I mean, there's so many options. Could it be done inexpensively? Right. And I can't emphasize enough, never email.
But I
Sorry,
just
Tim.
looked at this one that I have as an example one that because we had to do some ones that way. So that way I knew how to create them myself after my assistant left. And I just realized it's 14 pages, so it's too long.
Okay.
Yeah, I think really would like it shorter because you don't want to spend, again, the goal is to do something that takes 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it may not, if you're doing full market analysis, then you'd spend more time on it, but just minimize your effort, focus on really talking to the customer. Matter of fact, this is the first script we like to recommend, which if you're getting started, pick up the phone and just read this exactly as it sounds until you get comfortable with it. Okay. Because I think this is a good starting point. And then we have some other scripts here when you get a chance to actually meet them. These are some questions that you can ask that really could help. I mean, this really gets them in the view of like dreaming and thinking about what am I doing with my real estate? So basically, these are some of the questions. What are the long-term plans for your home? Now, this is probably no longer accurate anymore, okay? Which is with the lowest interest. You know, here's the thing about this. Of course, the interest rates have been higher. This is amazing, okay? Because there's still single-digit interest rates. I remember the first property I bought in the I think it was in the 80s. My
Are
interest
you
rate
guys
was 14%.
sitting for this? How much was it? 18?
Yeah, it was like crazy, you know? And so I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I so wish interest rates were in the single digits again, you know? Who would have thought they'd come down, you know, even to 5% or whatever, basically. But how about this question? If you could live anywhere, where would you live? Get them to dream about it. I mean, this is going to be a fun conversation with them, you know? The real estate review is meant to provide you with a rough idea of the value of your home. Would you like me to do a more detailed analysis of the value of your home in this market? Now, these are just questions that may or may come up, but they're mostly of the times where you get to have some fun and talk about. People love talking about real estate. Okay, so that's all this is. Some of the scripts here, basically. Okay, so why do real estate reviews? And this is really just stating the obvious. It presents you as a trusted advisor, gives you an update to your customer, puts you in the position of being proactive. I mean, so many times people never hear from their realtor until they're ready to do something. They're actually the people that contact their realtor. And then this is the other thing too, is you really should be getting, I wouldn't be surprised to do real estate reviews effectively, which is really focused on the face-to-face interaction. You know, about a third of your deals, basically a third of your real estate reviews would result in a deal. So one of the things we really focus on is pick up the phone, and that's really the game changer.
So Tim, you
Yes.
said before, so for every 10, about 3 deals is
Yes.
what it shows, right? So think about this, friends. If you did 2 real estate reviews a week, right? Or if you don't have any business right now, and which is not true for anyone here, but if you're newer, and let's say you doubled down and did 4 week times 52, or even say it on the low end, because if it takes say 10 minutes, so that's less than an hour to do 4. An hour of your time a week, friends. So let's do that math really quick. So if you did it 52 weeks, you know, I'm going to take it down 48 weeks because you need some vacation, a month off, right? So 48 weeks times 4 would be 192 divided by 3. You could possibly do 64 deals a year just from doing an hour a week, right? Take that in half. That'd be 32 deals. An hour a week, friends. That's why I had Tim come here.
Again, I just want to reinforce the game changer is picking up the phone and calling people.
Yeah.
If you're just sending them out en masse, then you get much less results that way. Okay, so it's really making the contact, and that's the challenge too, right? That's the challenge we find people. That's why we have that script that you can just read from that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the question is, when should you do real estate reviews? There's all kinds of times to do real estate reviews. there's almost never a bad time basically, but these are some times where it's great times to do real estate reviews when there's a drastic market change. Okay, even in today's environment with all the things happening with real estate, all the discussions, it's a great time to people want to hear more about what's happening with real estate. They want to they want to know what's happening with my real estate. So people want to know about the end of the year summaries, beginning of the year summaries, home anniversaries. Sometimes people like to focus on home anniversaries and doing them. If an owner's thinking about making a refinance, again, that's an incredible service. If they think about doing a refinance and you give them a quick real estate review so they give a rough idea of what their home sells for, that's much less expensive than them basically paying for an appraisal. So they can say, oh, you know what? I'm not even in the ballpark. What am I thinking about? Or, man, I could, yeah, I could pull out a bunch of money out of this thing. So pre-listing activity, sometimes someone's thinking about, I'm just thinking about doing my listing, and you don't want to necessarily spend a lot of time doing a market analysis. A real estate review would be a quick and easy thing to do. And of course, home buyers, when people are thinking about buying home, a real estate review is really effective for home buyers. In this current market with all the discussion we're having about NAR and how buyers have to justify their commissions and things like that, buyer agents have to justify their commissions. This kind of information is going to be what is going to raise the level on the playing field for buyer agents, okay? Where they're not just going to show properties, they're going to actually have information that they can show their customers so they can make an effective decision.
Yep.
Monica, were you about to say something?
No, I was waving at Sue because she has to go. Sorry.
Okay, great. Well,
I was trying to be conspicuous.
Let me just wrap this up then. Basically, we have for Focus First pricing, we have lots of live support. We have lots of training videos. We have books, basically. We do have a special book here called 5 Weeks to Success with Real Estate Reviews. It's really meant to be a real estate review challenge. It is a book, basically. It's on Amazon. It says $197. It's actually $97. Okay. And it comes with these little scan codes. It's actually a workbook, so there's actually videos behind it. So if you really want to become an expert on real estate reviews, this is a great resource to help you. There's all these little scan codes, which brings you to videos. So that's available. Again, lots of stuff on YouTube. I want to make sure you're aware of that. And Focus First. Now, I wanted to show you one more thing here, just so you can be aware of. We have put together a kind of a little primer on real estate reviews, kind of summarizing how to do successful real estate reviews every time. I will send you a link, Monica. That link has your code on it, basically. But I'll put it in the messaging thing here, basically. So if you guys want to download this, which is kind of a summary of a lot of the stuff I've talked about here, how to do a successful review, what is a real estate review? Maybe some of this could be put in. I think someone was asking about how to describe what that is. How to do it within 10 minutes with Focus First. What are some of the scripts that you should do? And these are scripts that we talked about already here, basically, how to do the meeting presentation. So lots more information about here as well. And kind of the challenge is to do these real estate reviews, try them out and see how they impact your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And you can see, you could create something like this on your own, you guys. And this just makes it so easy. Why reinvent the wheel? And it's a real hefty, not investment. Doesn't cost an arm and a leg. How much is it, Tim?
Oh, okay. So first of all, I did send the link just in the chat meeting there, basically.
Okay. Which
is a link to download this thing here, basically. To subscribe to Focus First, there's several options. We do have a 14-day free trial. So if you'd like, let me just kind of, if you like, basically, just to try it out, we welcome that. We want to make sure it works for you before you spend a dime with us. Okay. So check out that link that I just sent you on this. And then you can see right here, there's the web address is focusfirst.com. We do have monthly subscription, so you can renew some monthly, semi-annual, or annual. If you do the monthly, it's $39 a month. If you do the annual, then you pay for a whole year in advance. It's $25 a month, so you get a better deal on that. So you can. So
here's my challenge to you guys. Is that the link where they can get the free trial through me?
Yes, if they click on that link through you,
Yeah.
first of all, what that will do, that'll give you access to this. Now, I can give you a link to the free trial. Let me put that up in a second.
So I'm going to encourage everyone to take a challenge from me. I say for the next 2 weeks of the 90K, we are going to still keep teaching the new things. We're going to take the last 20 minutes today and go over the end of week weekly meeting as a new teaching today. So you got 2 things, but I'm going to challenge you. Can you do between the next 2 weeks? Can you sign up today for the free trial through the link he's going to put in there and do 2 real estate reviews per week? All right. So
Focus on that face-to-face interaction.
yeah. So put in the chat for me, either private message, I'm in or I'm out. No judgment, right? But I just need to know because I can't hold you accountable if I don't know, right? So put in the chat in or out it could be private. So just so I know who to follow up with on who's going to do that. And then it's like if you do month to month is the most expensive, and I think that's only $40 a month, right?
Right, and you can cancel at any time.
Yeah, and if you do the least expensive and you do it for the 2 weeks and then you're like, I'm in, it's gonna be part of my habit. It's how much for the full year?
It's $25 a month or $300 for the full year.
Oh my
And you
God,
could
you
switch
guys. So
at
if
any
you
time.
do 64 sales and at 10,000 a piece, can you afford that $300? Right? We have to invest in ourselves, or if you've got a different way you want to do it. Either
Well,
way,
This
I
is
say
going to
do
make
it.
real estate fun again. By the way, this is going to make real estate fun because you're sitting down with your friends, your people that you know, people that know, love, and trust you, and
Yeah.
you're talking about their real estate.
Yep. And that 14 free day trial there. So put in or out to me in the chat so I know. Any other questions for Tim? One person asked,
Yeah.
can we get the PowerPoint?
Sorry, the link to the Facebook page, I clicked to learn more and it got a 404.
Okay.
Huh.
So was that the link for the free trial?
Well, if you look at the chat, the link to the free trial is right there.
Yeah,
I just clicked on it and here's where oh, okay. So that's okay. That's the wrong page. I apologize. Let me
Yeah,
get,
it takes me to my Facebook page.
okay. Yes, that's not what I wanted. Apologize for that.
And Stefan, if you need an admin to help you do these, we've got someone that we can hire out. $6 an hour. Now that really goes for anyone. If anyone needs virtual assistants, you can pay them directly. I've got a handful of names of people that are doing project-based work. So it's no contracts, right? I'm not the middleman. I don't guarantee anything. It's you and them. I can guide you. All right, he's looking for that link. Any other questions on that?
I just want to say, I think this is a great idea. It's another fantastic way to go be a real estate agent in front of people without
Yeah.
saying, do you have a home to sell?
Yeah, because I hate
You
that
know,
question.
I just love any conversation where I'm not literally asking them for you know,
Yeah,
referrals and stuff, but just being competent in
and
front of
coming
people.
from contribution,
Yeah, exactly.
right? Giving them something of value. Because the truth is, if you own real estate, you should, even when I wasn't going to be selling my house, I was keeping an eye on it, right? What the market is doing. So I know what my real estate holdings are worth. It's my portfolio. And the fact that Tim was showing us that graph and when he created this, you remember the story I said about a client that I had back in 07, 08. I was not her coach at the time. She got her license during the midst of the recession. And some brilliant coach back then said, go home and call everybody you know. You know, could you imagine had she had this? She sold 48 homes just by calling people to check on them. And when they said, how are you doing? She's like, I'm so excited, right? I mean, the real estate industry. And she probably wanted to say, I'm excited and I'm broke and scared shitless, but she didn't. Sure, right? In casual conversation, now you've got something to go, you know, just like your, you know, hopefully your tax preparation guy is going, here's your tax prep packet. Here's your checklist of things, something of value. Yeah, that's just good stuff, man. Good stuff. All right,
Okay,
so
so
Tim, did they have the 14-week trial?
Yeah, I did. I said, here's the correct 14-day link.
Okay.
So
Can someone
Hopefully
click
you
on
guys-
that and make sure it's working?
Yeah, I
It
got it to work.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, any more questions, concerns, thoughts before we let Tim roll?
I have a quick question.
Yes, Bree.
So would you suggest putting something like this together for if you are doing mailers for a specific area for listings? Or let's say you are focusing on probate or something?
So here's what matter of fact, one of the things we like to do is we like to take, so for example, if you're doing mailers for like a subdivision, if you're just trying to give them some information, one of the things we like to do is, matter of fact, we have some samples. Let's see if I can bring up a sample for you here.
Perfect.
Let me do this here. What I want to do is, let me bring this over on, let me see, I'm going to see if I can bring this over here. Okay, so this is Focus First right here. And when you get access to an account, what you'll find is you'll get a logon. Okay, this is a sample logon right here. And there's a couple things that you'll get access to on here, basically. Now, this is here's where you can download your software. You'll also get access to appreciation graphs. So here we have appreciation graphs for 325 metropolitan areas. So you'll get access to that. Under pricing resources, we have a bunch of things on pricing resources. Now, there's a couple of let's see, review resources. There's a couple of marketing things here where you can take a picture of like just the odds of selling, for example. We have a couple of little graphs where you can send the odds of selling on a postcard if you're going to basically farm a neighborhood. And one of the things we have is a postcard that says the odds of selling your neighborhood look great. And then you actually show them the odds of selling, and you can say, for more information, give me a call, so they can find out, well, what is this? Or you can say, how long should it take for your house to sell? And you can have the time to sell graph on that chart. And you can so you could actually put different graphs. We recommend you just do one graph per farm thing. So you could actually have multiple farming concepts, basically. Then you can say, when's the best time of the year to get your house closed? Okay, and you could put the buying pattern on there, and so they can see that. Put your contact information in there, so you could farm that way with information that's customized and specific to their area.
Love that. Tim, is there a video that you could send me that I could send to them that just is a, 2 minutes of click here, enter this, do this?
Yeah.
For just could you do that? That way I'm trying to eliminate any reasons why we won't get to it. Right.
Yeah.
And
Now the other thing too, just want to make sure you guys are aware, we do have, if you have any questions at all, I mean, we're realtor friendly, and this is our site. There's a support thing here, and we have an 800 phone number right here. So if you have any questions, you could call our 800 number, and we have people that basically will pick up the phone and call you up and be glad to talk with you about how to get things done. So if you're
I
having
love
trouble getting
that. So
started,
if they're running their first one, Tim, and they're stuck, they can just call that number.
right.
Yep.
So
And you're
Tim-
gonna
Glad to
send
help you.
this.
Who would I reach out to if the appreciation graphs were missing a pretty big area that we do a lot of things in our area? Who would I reach out to see if we could get that city out there?
Send us an email. Now, here's the thing about the appreciation graphs. Let me tell you a little bit of restrictions on these appreciation graphs. One is this is actual data that's put together by the US government. Okay. which is one of the reasons why we really believe it's the most accurate appreciation. A lot of times people, they'll look at appreciation and they'll base it on the average home sold. Well, what if there's a lot of new construction in the area that's higher price homes? It increases the average and it looks like the appreciation has increased when it really hasn't. So what the government actually does is they collect data for each specific home that's sold. They look when it was previously sold, and they kind of come up with an algorithm where they kind of identify the amortization across the number of years. So it is the most accurate appreciation. Now, that being said, they have it grouped into these huge metropolitan statistical areas. And so there are some limits, and if people live in the smaller area, they're like, hey, guess what? My city isn't represented by that big metropolitan area. Well, so we don't have data on those big cities, on those little small cities. And so the best we can do is give you these larger cities to give you a rough idea on that location and what it looks like. Okay, so it's likely that this is all the data that's based on from what the government gives us. It's the most accurate data. So that's the data we have, and that's what we have to go with. So there are some limitations to that.
Good to know. All right. Any other questions? So Tim, do you have access to that video where you could throw it in the chat while I start?
I need to create a special link for that.
Okay.
But
All right.
yeah. But
Why
just
don't
kind
you
of
email it to me?
okay, and it's just a getting started link. It'll be a getting
Perfect.
started video.
Perfect. If you could email that to me. All
Okay.
right. Last chance for questions. All right, Tim. Unmute and thank this man for pouring into us, right? This is just such good stuff. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank
Thank you.
If anybody isn't getting the help that they need, call that number and say, I want to talk to Tim, and they will get you an appointment with me. Okay, Monica.
Right? And he's here
Absolutely.
because I did that. And if he doesn't respond, you gotta be like Sheldon, right? I always tell him, be like Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory. Have you ever seen it, Tim?
I don't think I have.
I don't watch TV, but if I am like overwhelmed and need to laugh and unplug, Sheldon is a scientist who's on the spectrum, and he goes to his neighbor's door, Penny, and he knocks on her door and he's like, Penny, 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 until she answers. So
So what's the longest he's ever knocked?
only a couple minutes because she gets
Okay.
irritated and she opens the door. But the story is same with our clients. If our clients and our friends and our family don't respond, don't make it mean anything. Just reach back out. Yeah, keep reaching out until people say stop it, and they won't, because that's in our heads.
Yep.
That's in our heads.
People want to hear from us. They do. People want to hear from us. That's the biggest lie that we tell ourselves. Nobody wants to talk. They want to hear from you.
It's this guy, Tim, that's lying to us and saying no one wants to hear from us. Because here's the truth. Since COVID, people have been isolated and they are starving for communication. And mental health is a problem. You could change someone's day who's having a really bad day just by calling to say hi and starting a conversation. It's powerful. Yeah, they want to hear from you. And if they don't, they'll tell you. And then they're not for you. Close the door, move on. All right, Tim, you're the bomb. We appreciate you. I'll
Okay,
look forward
guys,
to
thanks
getting
for
that video and I'll send
Okay.
it out to them. Everyone else stay because we've got another 10 minutes to knock out the rest of this week. Thanks, Tim.
All right, see you guys.
Bye-bye. All right. Juliet, can you pull up the end of week? So you got 2 homework assignments this week. Number 1 is if you said yes to that, right? Go do the free trial. Well, I'm going to say 3. The second one is to stay on those 3 things in your tracking. So we've looked back, and I'm going to call some people out here. Some people haven't even tracked a day. Do you realize we can look at your history? When I realized that, I was like, oh. And a lot of people are getting better and better and better at tracking, right? If the only 3 things you track, it's your, what are they? We want to get to 100% this week on 3 things. That's been our goal for the last 3 weeks. Number 1 is what? Unmute and give it to me. What's that?
Current business.
Current business. That's right, Liz. What else?
R&B,
That's right. And the third one?
lead generation.
Follow up. R&B is generation and follow up on your leads. So you look at your pipeline, right? And you do your DTD2 calling or texting or whatever you decided you're going to do, right? If your plate's full and you cannot handle one more thing and you can't handle more business, then you shouldn't do this. If things are going on to where you can't do the trial now, that's okay, right? But focus. So the trial is one if you chose to do it. Focus on those 3 things. And then the third one is to look at the form Juliet's going to pull up. So Juliet, pull up that form, share the screen. So we've created this form for your end of week wrap up. We've been talking about it, and your homework is to look at this, print it out, cross out things you would not answer or that are not helpful to you, and send me a picture of it. Right? So it's got questions that I think in my pretty little head that are going to be powerful for you. So did I improve where I said I would? That holds you to a high level of accountability, right? Yes or no. If you save these sheets in a binder week after week and you got no on there week after week, what do we need to shift or pivot? Celebrating what you did well and what areas do you want to improve? What's the plan to get there? What did I drop the ball on that I need to correct this week? What's the most important one thing I learned this week? On a scale of 1 to 10, my stress levels are at a blank, and how can I reduce stress levels by 2 points? I put everything in there I could think of. If it's not useful, speak your truth, cross it off. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I want to get this form fine-tuned to what the majority of people think is going to be helpful, and they're going to do. The idea of an end-of-week wrap-up is twofold. Tell me what you think it is. If you have a meeting with yourself at the end of every week, looking at last week and looking at the next week, what are the 2 things that's going to do for you?
Plan for
Make
next
you
week.
accountable.
Accountability.
Yes, exactly. Key, what'd you say?
I was going to say celebrate and plan.
Yeah. Kristen?
Just keeping you accountable and kind of setting that plan in motion.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to grow and to really self-reflect. What did I do well? What am I kicking ass at? What am I really dropping the ball on? Right? And here, if you're trying to lose weight and you worked out 4 times, put that on what you did well. It doesn't necessarily have to be business, right? If you've got other goals outside of business, celebrate those as well. The other thing, so you're assessing the last week of your life and being super duper intentional. And then looking forward, what do you want it to look like? Right? If you're being super intentional and looking at the opportunities to grow. So if you're doing affirmations, which one had the biggest impact and which one will have the biggest impact? The suggestion is using that habit hack agreement where you write down what your intention is for the next day. You put it by your bed, you read it before bed, you read it first thing in the morning. The link is there to that. The next one are, did you do each of these? And Juliet, weren't we going to take these out and just put scores? So we got to take out the first question. So it's not, did you do each of these? It is list the scores for the last 2 consecutive weeks, right? And if you got a binder, you've got them right there, right? The previous week, because you already wrote it down. You put that in the first box and then your score for this week. Did you do better? Did you stay the same or did it go backwards? If you don't like any of that, or you got an idea to ask one question instead, I really want to know in your heart of hearts what you will do if you're intentional with your end of week wrap up and what you won't do. If you won't do it, let's cross it out. If you got different ideas to put in here, let's put them in. Your R&B score was, if it's less than 100, did I do my R&B backup plan? Does everyone know what your R&B backup plan is? Right? The backup plan is if you didn't do those 3 things you said you were going to do, you've got a written plan, which means you spend Friday afternoon doing it or Saturday. Ryan said that his kids were going to have to suffer on Saturday morning until he gets it done. Chad says that his kids are asking him, did you get it done? So they can go on vacation. All right, remember, nothing takes precedent except for true emergencies over getting new business in the door. So in hindsight, were these things true emergencies? In the spirit of being creative, what could have been the workaround for next time? For example, kids are homesick. I hear a lot of people going, yeah, I can't get anything done. Well, is grandma live in town? Could grandma come take care of them and watch them so you can actually work? Or do you need a day of rest and you just take the day off? Right? But be creative, out of the box on what would be possible. Right? And then bulletproof weekly wrap up. Did you do your end of week thing? Did you bulletproof your transactions by making your connection calls? Juliet, we got to change that. Did you enter all the new contacts from the week or the last 24 hours in the database? We have to change that too from the week, Juliet. Clear out all the check marks on your clean sheet. Weekly bulletproof meetings end of week, which was this one. 1 day off from real estate per week. Replace, don't erase, make sure it's in the calendar. So
Hey,
that's
Monica?
yeah.
Sorry, on the dashboard, when we're clicking the boxes daily, right? We still have it on there. Did you post this in the Facebook group on a daily tick?
Ask me the question again. So
So we've decided that we're posting it either Fridays or Mondays, right?
yes. Here's what we've now decided.
Oh,
This
okay.
This is almost evil. We've got access to your sheets. We're going in and posting the pictures. So,
Oh, smart.
all right. So we're taking it off your plate. But here's what I need to know in the chat now. Do you want us to post yours on Fridays or Mondays? Fridays at 2:00 EST or Monday morning by 10 EST? We can do either.
Mondays, because that way, if you have to do makeup on the weekend, you have the time to get that logged.
Absolutely.
So they're going to be Monday check-ins by 10. Well, is 10 EST enough? Should we do noon? Because Bree's in Pacific.
So it's Kristen.
Yep.
I caught that today.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Mondays by what time, you two?
I mean, my goal is like first when I get in the morning. So if I need to update anything, if I didn't get like a Sunday night updated or Saturday updated because I didn't go back in there for the weekend, I update it. I'm in the office by 8:30, 9 a.m.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'd say by 9 o'clock for me too, because that's usually when I'm rocking and rolling. And
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's noon. Why don't we say by 2 EST? Gives you a little bit of extra time,
Okay.
which is 11. All right, your time. So Ella will put on her calendar every Monday at 2:00. She's going in because she leaves at 3. So that'll give her 1 hour. Is that enough, Ella?
Yes, it is.
Yep. So then we got to go on their sheets and take off that tick. So they're not looking at it. Have Lizelle do that. Does that answer your question, Bree?
No, I don't think so. Sorry, I was reading something in the messages. So that there's a tick under the dashboard for like every day of the week if we posted it, and but it adds to the percentage.
Yep, we're gonna get rid of that.
Okay.
That is for every day of the week. We'll get rid of that. So this is the one page. There's an optional page. Scroll down. If you're doing connection cards, right, 2 note cards a day, there's a place there where you can plan in advance. If you're doing real estate reviews, there's a place there where you can plan in advance, right? So this is optional only if you're doing those cards. You'd fill out what you committed to and did you do them, right? And then you would plan your next week, which means you take 15 minutes, scroll through Facebook, put people's names there and the reason why you're going to do it. So when Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday comes along, you're like, okay, I'm writing to Janny, she lost her dog. I'm writing to so-and-so, she got engaged. I'm writing to so-and-so because their child just went off to college, whatever it is. The other optional part down here is only if you're doing real estate reviews, right? How many did you do? And then if it should be a minimum of 2, right? And you can put the names there up to 4 if you want 64 units, transactions in a year. That stat is amazing. And then the ones for the next week. There's several slots there, totally optional. It's a planning tool. So again, the purpose is to look at the last week. And if you save all these in a binder week after week, and if in 1 year your life has not changed, you can go back and figure out exactly why it didn't change. The proof is in the pudding, right? I never did my weekly planning. I never got my lead gen done. I never did or I got better and better and I took things off my plate. And so the other thing is if you need leverage at $6 an hour, we've got a ton of people And I've not interviewed them, but I know that they're in these VA groups. I'm not the middleman. I'll just throw some names at you and you can talk to them. And it's project based. You can say, I need you to do this project for 5 hours, $6 an hour. I tell them all. I said, we only pay $6 an hour. And in the Philippines, that's really good money. Some of these companies that I stopped using were taking 10 from me and giving them 3. Right? So the $6 an hour is good. Right? So we've got a list of people that have raised their hand if you need leverage. All right, we're over time. You got your homework? Ready to rock and roll? Feeling good?
Yeah, Bree had asked a question with that last form that you had up there. Is it customizable where we could go in eventually after this whole thing is done, and if we wanted to tweak it to change some of the titles or whatever for uses?
It's a nightmare. I had to pay someone, and now I'm thinking about paying her again. So we'd have to figure that out. But that's what I want to know, right? Because maybe I'll just change it or put additional words in, right? Or take things out. So I want you to speak your truth. If you were creating this for you, right? Because if one person's thinking it, so is somebody else, right? My suggestion to you right now is to write down those 3 action items.
Yeah.
And to look at your calendar and do what?
Put them on the calendar.
Put them on there. That's right, Alex. Yeah. Yep. Which means, and I recommend that with my one-to-one clients. When we're done, you should have 30 minutes on the calendar afterwards where you go, okay, my commitment, if I'm going to be a man or woman of my word, the only way I can fulfill my commitment and do what I said I was going to do is to go look at those things, pull it up on my calendar. Okay, I can do this Friday at 1. I can do this Monday at 2. And put it in there, block it out. And if something comes along and gets in the way, you replace, you don't erase. That calendar, man, no matter what it looks like, I don't care if it's Post-its on a wall or if it's electronic or paper, game changer.
Can you repeat the 3 action items so we can write those?
You think I remember? You were so funny, honey. I got the memory of a gnat.
I
Okay.
know.
I wrote them down.
Oh,
Good job,
Alex, go.
The one was sign up for the free trial.
Yep.
And
If you're doing that.
if you're doing that. Number 2 was the usual current business R&B and follow up.
Yep.
Mhm.
Continue with the plan. And then 3 is print out that form and edit it with a pen and then text you a picture
Send
of
me
that.
a picture of it. Yes.
Perfect.
And number 2, the correction on that is at 100%. Your goal is to get those 3 things done. Current business, lead follow-up, and your R&B at 100%. All right. Compete
And
with
4
yourself. See
reviews
if you
for
get
the
it.
next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yep. And so here's the caveat. If we are pulling those pictures, well, she can look at the history. So it doesn't matter when you clear the screen. Is that right, Ella? You can look at the history of each of their sheets to see before
Yes.
2 o'clock. Okay. Yeah. We're spying on you. That's either really good or really creepy.
Is there a button that can just clear the check boxes all at once, or do you have to go
Yeah,
through
it's at
and-
the top.
Oh, dang it. I've been going through and
No, it's at the top. It says clear check boxes.
I
Mine
saw
doesn't
that.
But
Every time I click the button, it tells me I'm not authorized to do it. I have to go in and
no, you got to go through. So we've resolved that. It's a matter of stay on and we'll walk you through it because you have to allow permissions for the program to work.
Yes,
Okay, so do you have a minute to stay on?
sure.
Share your screen. All right, you guys, anything else while he's sharing his screen?